Hello and happy Wednesday. Today we are welcoming recently married bride Sam onto the Busy Bride podcast. Sam got married last July at Perona Farms in northern New Jersey, and part of this episode is basically a love letter to that incredible venue. She talks about how she and her husband were really intentional about emphasizing things that were super important to them throughout the wedding day, like their family and their Christian faith, and how they honored their union of East Coast and West Coast families with some super cute details. I cannot wait for you to hear about this beautiful wedding and the marvelous advice that Sam has to share. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Busy Bride podcast. I'm your host, Gabriella Marie, and I created this podcast to help you research vendors and learn valuable advice as you plan the most special and true to you wedding day of your dreams. Let's get started. Hello, Sam. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm super excited. You were one of my brides from this past summer. I photographed your wedding, and it was beautiful. The day was gorgeous. The wedding was gorgeous. I loved you too. You're so sweet. I love everybody there. It was just an amazing day overall, and I'm really pumped to talk about it.
Thank you. It was the best day. It was awesome.
I'm so glad. Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? Your name is Sam. I've been over that. But
Yep.
you can just say where you got married, kind of where you're based, and who you're married to.
Yeah. So, my name's Sam. My husband is named Kai. We've been married for 8 months. We got married July 22nd, 2023 at Perona Farms in Andover, New Jersey. So we were a little bit of a unique situation because I am from New Jersey. And Kai is from Washington State. So we had to kind of figure out where to get married, and we chose closer to New Jersey by Newark, by the Newark airport. But then we live in Pennsylvania now. So kind of farther from where we are now, but good.
Couple different states in the mix.
Yes, definitely.
Sweet. Are you happy with your decision to get married in New Jersey?
Yes. Yeah. When we were looking at venues, we had so many different options, right? We could go somewhere far and do a small wedding with both of our families, or we can do a big wedding on the East Coast and a big wedding on the West Coast. We looked at all different places, but we really decided because I was the one that was mainly planning the wedding, it would be easier to get venues, and we were living on the East Coast. It would be easier to get vendors out here that we could meet with throughout the year and do things like that. So that's how we settled there. And then we went up more North Jersey, being closer to the airport for people flying in, and just trying to make it as accessible as possible for people. So that was kind of the thought process behind that. But we looked at so many venues beforehand in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey. I was looking online on places in Washington, so many.
I believe that. I know it probably feels like super overwhelming, especially when there's multiple states to consider and family all over the place. It can be a lot.
Yes, yeah, it definitely can be. And we know that we wanted to incorporate and make it as easy for family to come as we could. So, yeah, there was a lot. It definitely got overwhelming thinking through all of that.
I believe that. So, when did you get engaged? And then also, can you tell a story of how you got engaged?
Yeah, so we got engaged on July 23rd, 2022.
Oh my gosh.
So exactly 364 days before we got married. It was not at all planned, it just happened. But so kind of crazy. Our birthdays are the same week. He's the 25th of July. I'm the 30th of July. His family was coming out to see us that same week in 2022. And this weekend before, Kai had said to me, hey, I'd really like to go on a hike tomorrow. And I was like, okay, sure. We can go on a hike. And we started looking into it. And he had found a trail in Doylestown, and I was kind of like, all right. And then we looked at the weather. I was like, it's going to be 100 degrees tomorrow. Like we are in the middle of a heat wave on the East Coast. And I'm like, are you nuts? Like, let's like go paddleboarding. Let's go do something else. And he's like, no, we have to go on a hike. And I was like, Kai, like, it's gonna be 100 degrees by 9 a.m. Like we're gonna die. He's like, it's no big deal. And then like I was being such a pain about it that finally he's like, it's my birthday. Like, come on, this is what I want to do. We're gonna go. And I was like, all right, whatever. He's like, we'll get up, we'll leave early, it'll be fine. So I'm like, okay. So we go out. Easton. I don't know if I said Doylestown earlier, but Easton. It was in Easton. So we go out to this like trail, and it wasn't like a steep incline or anything, but we were just kind of walking, and he had tons of energy, and I'm like, he always has tons of energy, so I didn't think anything was off about that. But we are like kind of walking through this trail, and it's kind of buggy and muggy and like whatever. And he's like, there's supposed to be an outlook here. I don't know where it is. And we walk through, and then we kind of turn back, and he's like, I think we missed the outlook. And I was like, okay, like, and so we go and find it. And then I was looking out, and I turned around, and he was down on one knee.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was really, really sweet, super intimate, and just like, wow, like, and so he asked me to marry him, and we just spent time there, like the two of us. I'm somebody that like wants to know all the details, so I'm like, tell me everything. Like, tell me about the ring. Tell me how, like, the planning, everything. Um, so we did that, and then we were like kind of stayed and spent time, and then we were like, all right, let's go. And it was a short walk to the car, and I was like, thank you for like, this was the perfect thing because I was shaking. Like, my legs were shaking. I was like, if I had to walk all the way down a mountain right now, I think I'd lose my mind. Like,
Oh my gosh.
I would not be able to do it. So it worked out really, really well. Yeah. And then we went, and so it was like probably 9 o'clock our time. So we FaceTimed all of his family in Washington who knew already. So it was like 6 a.m. their time, and we told them, and then we came back and told my parents.
That's amazing. I love that story so much. And I photograph proposals, so I can
Mm-hmm.
totally understand how A, you were shaking, and B, you wanted to know everything. That's like the first thing that happens usually after proposals, like, wait, tell me everything. How did you plan this? Where's the ring from?
Yes,
Just who knows? Like, oh my gosh, what?
literally. It was like, yeah, it was crazy. And so we'd been dating for about 5 years before that. So, yeah, it was a complete surprise. And it's just like, oh my gosh, what?
Like, we're finally getting married. This is amazing.
Yes,
That's
yes.
awesome. Oh, I love that. So sweet. And then, so you were engaged for like exactly a year then before the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
How
We were.
how was that with the wedding planning process, especially since you were looking all over the place for weddings and didn't know like where you wanted to get married? Was year a good length?
Yeah. So for us, it was the perfect length. And so I say that with the caveat of like, I didn't have a specific place in mind of like, I have to get married here, I have to get married on this day, or anything like that. Um, we were very flexible in terms of like what we were looking for, what we wanted. After like getting engaged on the weekend of a heat wave, I was really nervous about then picking our wedding date the same day or that same weekend the next year. Thinking like we're like it's gonna be 90 degrees and I'm gonna lose my mind. I don't do well in heat. Like that's not gonna go well. But because of both of our schedules, it worked out that we got married in the summer. Um, and yeah, I just think it was perfect. We did a lot of like I tried to be really intentional about we started looking at venues, got engaged in July. We started looking at venues probably around August, like actually going more towards the end of August. So really taking those few weeks to just be engaged, right? Like not jump into dream about the planning part, but not jump into like, okay, we're going to make some actual plans right now. And then we didn't actually book our wedding until like our venue until October. So really it was like 9 months out from when we got married. So I would definitely say for like other people, unless you have something that is like you have a specific venue or date or vision, I think you can plan a wedding, a beautiful wedding in 6 months, in 2 years, right? Like regardless, I feel like I've seen it all. So,
That's awesome, and that's really comforting to hear that, I'm sure, for brides who are in, like, all different scenarios of lengths of wedding planning. And I can confirm your wedding was beautiful, so being able to plan that in 9 months is awesome. So that's great, I'm glad it worked out super well for you with that timing. So another question for the planning process is, like,
mhm.
what was, I guess, one of the most difficult parts of the planning process? And then what was one of like the best parts or like the easiest?
Yeah. So making the decisions was definitely like making a decision and sticking to it, right? Like that idea of like, I had to be really mindful of, okay, we have this figured out, next thing, right? Like we're going to put this to the side and now go for the next thing. So that was difficult, but good. And because it like really it's trusting myself, right? Like trusting that I like what I like. And once I've made that decision, we're good. So definitely not second guessing. Um, in terms of the easiest part, yeah, I guess the other thing would be like or challenging is where, right? Like where to get married. There were different things as I had heard friends get married and pick vendors and things like that, that I knew that I wanted. So I really tried to do local vendors and like a venue that was family based, that was like supporting small businesses, supporting people, right? Because I think that you can like you have these people who do weddings beautifully, um, but I really wanted it to be personal and like okay, you know me, you know what I want, you know us. This isn't just another day for you. This is our day. So we did try and be really intentional about things like that, and a little bit picky about that.
So what stood out to you then about Perona Farms? Because that was your venue. It was beautiful. And from my perspective, it seemed like they cared so much about you guys and your day and making it perfect. And that's something I don't see often with wedding venues is
Hmm.
just that incredible intentionality of like caring for you guys. So just talk about why
Yeah.
why you love your wedding venue so much.
Yeah, and it's funny because Perona Farms is like, I mean, if you look at their Instagram or anything like that, you're like, oh, they're a well-oiled like wedding machine, right? But when we went there, the person that took us around on the tour was her father, like that was his business, right? So this was her business, this was her family. It was very much a representation of them. They have three different venues right on site. So they had the one venue that I loved. It was beautiful, and then the barn, and I loved that one too, and I knew that that one was more mine and Kai's vibe. So the other one was like an Italian, like I would say like had an elegance about it, right? And like this Italian, like I don't even know how to describe it, like
Was it like architecture, like garden vibes or something like that?
yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, and just had like different, like there was a lot of character to it and it was beautiful. And but I think the barn was like just a mix of totally what we wanted, right? Where it was like rustic, but it was beautiful and it was like you could do casual, you could do elegant, right? It wasn't just like this is your like clearly black tie wedding, right? Like you could do different, you could do a lot with it. So that's why we chose the barn. But so from the outside it looks like, you know, they they have this down well. And they did. They like everything that they did. I was in contact with Marley through the entire time that we were planning the wedding, and especially like leading up to it, the amount of emails that I was like, wait, are you sure about this? Wait, what about this? Like, I have just this question. And she would get back to me right away. And it was like, you own this business and you care about my wedding day. She actually came. She was not a part of the actual day and like getting everything set up, but she came and stopped in with us and she was like, how's everything going? So, like, even that personal touch of like the owner of this place has 3 weddings going on right now, and she's taking time out to check in with us. So, different things like that really stood out to us. But then, so we had like an attendant with us because we got ready on site. We had a ceremony coordinator. We had a maitre d. Um, and they were wonderful. Like everything that we threw at them when we got ready, we got there at like 7 a.m. And our attendant, I came in with a whole mess of flowers because I was having my bridesmaids prepare them for the tables for that day, right? So we come in with this mess of flowers, and the attendant's like, okay, like let's do it. Well, and she's down there doing that with us. And it was like, there were times where she was like, go sit down. Like, you don't have to do this. We got this. That I was like, oh my gosh, like, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. And then Kim, our ceremony coordinator, was with us the whole time, and she was wonderful. And just like being like, okay, we're going to go here. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. So just like different things like that, I think make it stand out. And I think that's one of those things that like, I didn't know these people beforehand. It was complete trust in Marley. That was my point person. Um, and they blew it out of the water. Like better. It was clear how communicative she was with this team and like how much she trusted them even to take care of our day.
That's incredible. I'm so glad you felt taken care of like at every single part of the day. Because it is, I would say it's like a yellow flag if a wedding venue has multiple weddings going on at the same time. Just because you want to make
Yep.
sure you're taken care of on your wedding day because that's a like monumental day for you, but it is, just another day for the business of the wedding venue. But
Mm-hmm.
Perona Farms did an absolutely incredible job with having multiple weddings there.
Wonderful.
You didn't see anybody else. Like you felt like you were the
No.
only wedding there. And that is
Mm-hmm.
also a testament to just like how big the venue is. Like there's so many different parts to it, which is awesome. Um,
Yes.
but something they did really well was overstaffing. Like they were
Mm-hmm.
the opposite of understaffed. They had people assigned to very specific parts of the day for the different weddings, and I think that really helped make everything so seamless.
Yeah, it's so true. There were like, yeah, the overstaffing and just like everything. There were things that they took care of behind the scenes that I had no idea about, right? That like they just were like, yep, we're going to have this all figured out. They packed up all our stuff, even like something little that you're like, oh, shoot, we have to do this before we go out for the first look or before we go take pictures. They did it. So, and that's really why I chose Perona. When we went for our tour, Marley explained everything and was like, this is how we do this is how the day runs. And I was like, wow, you guys take care of everything. Like there's not one thing that I need to worry about, or you guys just like, you have it. And I felt confident in that. And it like went far beyond my imagination on that day. So that was really, really sweet.
Yay. That makes me so happy. I'm just so glad that they had such a great time and everything was so perfect. Um, so you said that you chose the barn side of the venue because it kind of fit your vibe.
Mhm.
What was the vibe you and Kyra going for the day? Like what did you have in mind when
Yeah.
dreaming up your wedding and planning for it, and like how did it pan out?
Yeah, it's so funny because you like go to weddings, you look on Pinterest, you look on Instagram, right? Like you see all these things. And I don't know that I had like an actual picture of this is what my day has to look like, right? Like I need to have these flowers or I need to have these colors. I really didn't have that, but I knew different things that were important to me or stuck out to me. So one thing that I was important to us was like, yeah, we're planning a wedding, but we're planning for a life, right? So like, how do we make those types of things come out for us? We really tried to include our values. just of faith and of family. And I tried to be really intentional about the way that I was including family in our wedding. My grandparents were the only grandparents who were there. They were married 63 years. So I did a lot to incorporate them. I had them do a generational prayer during our ceremony, just to not only include them, but really just to show like this is this is coming from, um, as a representation of the people who came before us and those that will come after us, right? Like really taking that time. Kai's dad married us, and so he's a pastor, so we included him in that. I also wanted to have, so I tried to be really intentional about like having family and our faith come through, but even just having like little details of things that made us us. So I wanted simple and natural, and that's what the barn was. When I walked into it, even like they have a bottom floor and a top floor. And so the bottom floor was like, I don't need to do anything to this, right? Like they had different chairs and different size tables and all these different things. And I was like, I don't need to bring decorations. Like this is beautiful as is. So keeping with that of like that simple, natural, and then incorporating that East Coast, West Coast thing of like we came together from across the country, right? And like so how do we keep that in? We put in like mountain people and beach people. Those were our favors. So they were coasters. Really, even the what's behind that is that on our first vacation, when I went out to meet Kai's family, we stopped at San Francisco and we were like, okay, our thing is like we're gonna get coasters. So everywhere that we have been to, we've gotten a coaster. Every new place that we've been to together. So this was kind of like, okay, this is our new adventure, right? So we want everyone that we love to be sharing in this detail that we've created from when we started dating. So really just trying to be intentional about those things.
That's awesome. I loved those coasters. They were on a table, people could take them, and half of the coasters said mountain people with like a cool drawing of mountains, and then the other half had beach people with like an ocean drawn on it. So I did love that touch. But yeah, your day was beautiful. It was simple, natural. I think were two great ways to
Mm-hmm.
describe it. You got married outside,
Yep.
which was nice, near the barn, and it was just a very, yeah, simple and natural backdrop. That's really what's
Yeah.
going to mind.
Yeah.
Like it was just kind of tree line backdrop, and I love that Kai's dad was able to marry you again. That tied in the family element, and it was really evident that you were being intentional the whole day with incorporating family and with truly emphasizing things that were important to the both of you. Can you talk about your first look? Because that's one of the coolest first looks I was able to photograph, and it had some unique parts to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So our first look, it was wonderful. So I came out, Kai was already out. We did it under a willow tree, and that was again very intentional. We both decided that we loved willow trees early on. And when we saw this, we were like, oh man, like that is so beautiful. Um, so we did it under there. Kai was already there and I kind of came up behind him. And so another wonderful thing, right, about Perona is I was walking down with our ceremony coordinator, Kim, and all of my bridesmaids, everyone came out and kind of where we were getting ready overlooked where the first look was. And I was walking down, I was like, Kim, I don't know, like everyone's outside at like, I don't know, I didn't realize that they would be outside. Of course they want to see it and I want them to see it, but I also want this time to be just us. And so I'm going back and forth. She's like, I'll tell them to go inside. And I was like, no, no, it's fine. Like, I know that this is really going to be special for them to see too. And she was like, nope, I'm telling them to go inside. And I was like, okay. Like, and so just like, and I'm so like looking back at it, I loved our wedding party. I love our family. But I'm so glad that that was just us. So her making that decision for me was like, oh, you are wonderful. Like that is what we needed. So that was great. But we came down and did our first look, and there was lots of tears, and also just like, oh. it's me and you, right? Like, and it was one of those things that, I guess like it sounds silly maybe, but like we found each other in that moment, right? Like it's our wedding day, but this is us, right? And so our nerves are gone and like we're together, nothing else matters. Um, so it was really, really great to do that. So during our first look, I knew that I had a book that I was writing for Kai. And I started writing it. It was a journal of letters. And so we were not long distance, but we were an hour away at least for the entirety of our relationship before getting married. So um, when I started the book, when we had gone out to visit his family for the first or second time, and I was like, wow, I am like just so in love with this man. And the way that I'm watching him interact with this family and just seeing this world that he comes from that I'm not seeing right on the East Coast, it's different. So I was like, I'm gonna write about it. Like I'm gonna put it down. And that's where it started, where I started writing about like just our dating life, right? Like it wasn't anything. And if somebody else reads it, they're like, okay, like you guys went to a restaurant this weekend, cool. You know, like it's not anything, but they were our memories, or times that I missed him, or just like little moments that stuck out, or didn't, right? Like even the mundane of like, you came up, we did this, we did that. And like, I enjoyed our time and that's it. But it's 5 years worth of that. So nobody knew about it. And I gave him that during our first look, that journal. So that was really, really special. And I think he was just like, what the heck is this? And so I was like, it's 5 years. It's our relationship. It's us. And how we've grown, right? We started dating when I was 21 years old. So even that is like, we've both grown up through this, right? It's not just been like, yeah, this is how we've grown up individually, but also how we've grown up together. So I did that. And then we prayed together. So that was another thing that was like, this is the core of why we are here. Our faith in God and like just taking that time to connect on a spiritual level, right? To say, like, it's us together. And this is why we're doing it. So that was wonderful too. It was just a really special first look.
It seemed special from the outside, and it was really cool to see you guys make it your own, like, again, prioritizing your faith because that's super important to you guys, foundation of your relationship. And the gift, the book, was so cool. I didn't know you're doing that either, so it was a surprise to everybody. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. I it That's why I love wedding days and first looks, because it's an opportunity to celebrate your relationship, and just like, yeah, like do special things that you normally wouldn't like take the time to do, I guess. So it was really cool to
Yes.
photograph that moment for you guys, and I love that
Yeah.
you made it so cool. Um, so did you guys have any other one-on-one time throughout the day besides your first look?
We did, yeah. So we took our first look and went right into pictures. And that, like, we were actually just watching our video, and I'm like, we talked the entire time. Like, it didn't feel like we were sitting there posing for pictures and like really stiff. It was just like, oh, how was your morning? Like, what'd you guys do? What's going on? Like, and so that time was really special again because it was like just the two of us connecting and spending time us. No eyes were on us. It wasn't like, oh, we have to look a certain way or we have to do a certain pose. It was like, I'm just happy to be with each other. And this is our wedding day and this is fun. And yeah, so that was really great. And then we did our ceremony. And then after our ceremony, we like took the first 20 minutes of cocktail hour and spent that together. And that was really great too. So it was just one of those things that we had to be like, hey, we just did this, right? And like there's a whole party going on out there. And as much as I think we both have a little bit of FOMO and wanted to get out there, it was like, no, this is just us, right? And we're gonna reconnect here and be like, what the heck? We just got married. Like we ate we ate all of the happy hour food and just like again got to be us. Um, so that was really, really great. And then we had our like a time by ourselves for the sunset pictures too. So when we went out and took some pictures around sunset, that was just us in another time to like be like, oh, like take it in. You know, we were together the entire time. That was definitely something that we didn't leave one another's sides, but taking those moments to be like, no eyes are on us. Nobody's like looking for us to talk to or to do anything. And we just get to be like, oh my gosh, like this is our wedding day. That was really great.
Yes, that's awesome. Because if you don't, or if you're not intentional about setting that time aside, it's so easy to for it to not happen at all. Um,
Yes.
and so that's why I love pushing for sunset pictures or just at least like a good chunk of time for couples pictures because I'm there, but it's just you guys. Like
Yeah.
I'm just the photographer. You know what I mean? Like I'll
No, but
guide you through, but it's like I want you to like be together during the
yeah,
pictures.
yeah. And that was like, I will say, Gabrielle, that was one of the things. So we did engagement pictures with you, and they were wonderful. And those were our times that were like, we got to be comfortable in front of a camera a little bit. We got to get to know you. Um, so we had that time. So I never felt, and I remember like after the wedding day, I never felt like, oh, there's cameras around me, or like, why do these people keep following me or anything like that? Like it felt very, very natural. Um, I think, and I think we're people that would be like, are you like, you're good? Okay, I'm good. Like, and would want to talk back and forth with you guys, but we didn't, we didn't feel that at all. I think you did a really, really great job of just being like, you guys do your thing and I'm going to do my thing. And like, yeah, I didn't feel pressure at all, which I thought that I would.
Good. That makes me very, very happy. That is my goal. So I'm glad that you felt
Yes.
that way. That you were able to like, not worry about me at all. Like that's number one goal. So very happy it turned out that way. And I love your pictures too. So like I'm glad that the I gave you guys prompts where some of it was like posy pictures, but a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it were prompts where like, okay, like do this, but then like chit chat and I'll be far away taking pictures.
Yep.
And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you guys were able to fully like just be together during that and yeah, soak it all in.
Yeah.
It
No,
makes
it
me
was
happy.
great.
So we didn't really talk about your reception at all yet. So let's touch on that. What's like,
Yeah.
I guess, like a couple things that really stood out to you about your reception that you loved?
Yeah. So our reception, we did an anniversary dance, and that was another nod to um not only the married couples in the room, but to my grandparents who again married 63 years. And one of those things like that's what we're aiming for here, right? Like this is this is what it looks like. So we did that during our reception. Um, for our cake cutting, so we had just come in from taking sunset pictures and they were beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong, I am so happy that we did them. And there was a part of us that was like, I just want to go inside and like have fun with everyone. Everyone's in there dancing or they're downstairs at the cigar bar or whatever it is. And like, we want to be with them. So we kind of finished sunset pictures and we are like, all right, we're going inside. And then they were like, okay, but you have to cut the cake. And I was like, ah, shoot, like we do. Okay. So I ran in and we had our 3-year-old nephew a part of our wedding day. He was our ring bearer. And I went up to him and I grabbed him and totally unplanned. Like I didn't plan this at all. And I went up to him. I said, you see that really big cake over there? He's like, yeah. I'm like, do you want some of it? He's like, yeah. And like eyes big. I'm like, come on, we're going to go cut it. So that's where he got looped in and we included him in. And that was just so fun. Because how can you have like a 5-tiered cake and a 3-year-old just like, can I have some of that? Like you're teasing me, right? So that was really, really special to just like impromptu include. Um, but yeah, our reception was really, really fun. Our DJ did a wonderful job. Our toasts, like my dad gave a toast, and my sister, who was my maid of honor, and then our best man. Um, yeah, they all did wonderfully. It was really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, the pictures of you and your nephew. You held your nephew as you cut the cake,
Hmm.
and his
Yep.
eyes like just like at the cake, like whoa, because he was then
Ginormous.
on the same level as the cake, and he was like
Yeah.
a little dude. He's 3 years old, so
Hmm.
those were really fun pictures. Definitely the most unique cake cutting I've done, which is
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, and like I said, completely unplanned. Like, okay, if we're gonna do another traditional thing, right? Which we plan to do. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. We're like, let's make it fun, right? Like let's make this something that's memorable and fun. And so we did. We smashed the cake into his face too, because he's 3, right? So he took the first bite of our cake, and then we both did the traditional feeding each other. So,
Amazing. Oh, I love that so much. Okay, so I guess looking at wedding day as a whole, there were lots of awesome details and great parts to it. Do you and Kai have like a favorite moment from throughout the day or like something that really stood out to you?
hmm. um, I would say, I don't know, everything was so perfect. And I talked about the weather earlier, and that was like the first thing. The weather was like an 80-degree bluebird day. It was beautiful. So that in and of itself, I think like it was calm. It was peaceful. It was um yeah, just like really, we were blessed with the absolute perfect day. Um, but everything was like, I don't think I can say one bad thing. Like, there's nothing that I think went wrong. Um, and then those moments, right? Like the moments that were planned but weren't expected. So we planned a first look, but we didn't expect to connect the way that we did. Um, we planned to like say thank you to everyone, but being able to go up and talk to everyone, like, and sit and be like, yeah, like I'm so happy to see you. Those were really sweet moments. Our first dance, that was like, again, we're not people who like to be the center of attention. And our first dance was like, it's just you and me, right? Like, this is the song that we picked. And he had actually picked that song like years before we even got married. So
Which
that
song
was
was it?
special too. It was You Make It Easy by
Yes.
Jason Aldean. Yeah. So that was like, I think came out in a conversation of like, I really like this song. And he was like, I like this is the song. This is ours. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But like again, years of like, okay, that'll be it. Um and it does, like, it hits different even after, right? When we've heard that song so many times, and for 5 years or 3 years beforehand or whatever it was, that was special. But hearing it after, you're like, oh, that was our wedding. Like that, it brings you back to those moments. It's those kinds of things that you can't plan for in your wedding day, right? That you can't like, and I would say to anyone, like, make room for that. Have fun with it and make room for it. Because it's like things may go perfectly or they might not, but like make it yours and have fun.
Yes, because there's only so much planning you can do, and there is a lot of planning that goes into the day.
Yeah.
But once the day is there, like it just roll with everything because anything that happens then becomes like a memory of your wedding day.
Yes.
And that's so special. And
Yes.
you can't plan for everything. So I love that you said that because it's so true. Um, there's only so much planning you can do.
Yes.
But with the planning,
Yes.
do you have a tip or anything or a couple tips or like anything that stands out to you where you're like, man, I wish I would have known this, or I want everybody planning their wedding to know this or to have this in mind?
Yeah. So, I would say so pick vendors that you trust. That is like totally one of the and I think that sounds silly because you don't see them a ton beforehand, but being around people, we picked you and that was it was intentional and it was very much like our photographer is going to be with us the entire day. And so I want somebody who I trust. And when you came, it was like, okay, you know everything that's happening. I don't need to. Right. And so, kind of in that same mindset of like, don't dwell on the things that need to happen because trust the people that will make it happen. Um, so, definitely that I would say not like kind of going back, don't stress too much. I know that's like silly to say, but because how can you not when you're planning a wedding? But like have fun and be yourself and like don't worry about what your wedding should look like. I think that's a really big thing. Weddings have been so commercialized or like they're magnificent on Instagram or whatever. And it's like just have a day that like exemplifies you, right? Like amplifies you and your partner. That just is like throw what it should look like out the door, throw what you think how you should pose should look great, or this is the specific like we have to kiss after walking down the aisle or halfway down, like things like that, and it has to look like this and it has to look that. It will be beautiful if you're just like yourself and have fun and not worry about other people's what it should look like or other people's opinions or things like that. And then I'd also say like be intentional with time. um, Social media can create a space where every time you're on you're seeing something about like, oh well, this person did this, or like this is a wedding trend, or I love this. And so being intentional to be like, okay, I'm not going to look at that because I'm not in my wedding planning mode. I think that that can really quickly seep into like your decisions and that whatever time you take to plan a wedding, right? Like that, it closes that time. And you forget that the time that you take to plan a wedding is also the time that you're engaged. You're never going to be engaged again in your life, ideally, right? So making that really special and putting that first.
That is a really, really great piece of advice because it's so true. I mean, as a wedding photographer, I am on the wedding algorithm on Instagram. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is constant just seeing, like, well, this couple did this, and look at how these florals were arranged at this wedding, and look at this bride's dress. And
Yep.
it's constant information and like you said, it was difficult to make decisions during the planning process. It's even harder when you're throwing like a bazillion different options.
Yeah.
So being able to like separate like, okay, I'm in wedding planning mode, I'm intentionally seeking out like these wedding things versus
Mm-hmm.
I'm just doing a quick little scroll. I'm not going to pay attention to the different ideas
Yeah.
being thrown at me. I think that's a really great tip for sure. Um, and with like not being concerned how the wedding looks, besides your marriage, the only thing to last after the wedding day, I guess unless you like freeze your cake for a year,
Yeah.
um, it's the pictures and the videos. So like that's what
Yeah.
you have. And so, you want when you look back at the pictures and videos, you're not looking back to be like, "Look at how awesome those florals were," like, "I planned this," or,
Yeah.
"Look at how amazing this dress looked." It's like, "Oh my gosh, remember how you felt during the first look?" Or like, "Remember when we picked up our nephew for the cake cutting?" Like, it's moments and it's feelings, and that's what you want to look back and remember, so you want to design the day to produce the best feelings and memories possible, and then
Yeah.
looks are just kinda like secondhand, and they're great. It's nice to have a beautiful wedding
Yeah.
day. There's nothing wrong with that, but it definitely should be, like, second to, like, okay, what's important to us.
Yeah. No. And like I think about like I think, people, especially the bridesmaids, get worried like, oh, I'm not gonna ugly cry because I don't want to mess up my makeup or they're taking pictures or whatever, right? But like that's the emotion behind the day. So like do it. Right. And I feel like that's the piece of like, don't worry about, does my leg look right when he dips me? Don't worry about like, is this the angle that I want, or, whatever. Because this is going to look good later, or whatever it is. I think the pictures will be beautiful and it will come out the way you want to, but be yourself.
Yes. And can confirm your photographer will do their best to make sure everything does look beautiful, even if it's just spur of the
Yes.
moment and it's not, you know,
Right.
perfectly posed.
Well, right, right. And that comes with the trust part,
Right.
right? Is that like the people that you're hiring, you're trusting that they're going to get, they are worried about that. It's not for you to be concerned about.
Yes, for sure. Yay! I loved recapping your day. Thank you so much for going through everything again, and
Yeah.
sharing all your tips and
So much fun.
tricks. Do you have any closing thoughts for brides who are wedding planning right now?
I don't think so. I think I pretty much hit everything. This might be a silly one, but somebody did tell me, along with your like travel credit card, your wedding website, your wedding email, if it works in your timeline to use like Black Friday deals or things like that, those are really great deals to use. Whether it's like getting your rings for that, or taking advantage of stationery for that. I would definitely say, in terms of budgeting and things, that is a really good, take advantage of it if you can.
That is a really great closing tip because I didn't even think about that, but it's so true. Black Friday is huge for sales, like even in the wedding industry, all over the place. So definitely
Yeah,
keep that in
even
mind.
like, even if it's Memorial Day, right? Like
Mhm.
any big sale day, try and plan to be like, okay, I'm going to buy my rings on that day, or I'm going to buy my invitations on that day, or whatever it is.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, thank you for that tip and
Yeah.
for every other tip and just for walking through your day with me. It was so lovely to have you and it was awesome catching up.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was amazing. I loved Sam's tip about knowing when to turn off the wedding planning mode with the Instagram algorithm and focusing on the meaning of the day when you're planning over just the look of it. So, if you loved this episode, if you found any of the advice helpful, I would love if you just share this to your Instagram story, tag me at Gabriella Marie Audi so we can get this episode out to brides who could use the advice and who would really find it helpful in their wedding planning journey. And if you're a regular listener of the show and you love the show, I would love if you would give this podcast a 5-star rating and review. It takes a couple minutes, but it really makes a world of difference in helping get this show out into the hands of busy brides who could use the advice. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time. Now go hug your person. I'll see you next Wednesday.